All right, welcome in Last Call NFL edition here on this Sunday now, week 3 of the season. We got a lot to get to here today. Gianni the Greek will be by here. We got ourselves a little gold and the latest information on what's being moved and where. And, of course, the Prez Lawrence will be in here a little bit later answering any of the individual questions you guys may have on games. But first, like we do each and every week, we want to bring in our good friends over from the Risk Room at the Westgate, the one and only Westgate's Superbook. Chase Michaelson in the house, ready to roll here on this week 3, Chase. And got to tell you, man, I'm excited. Some of these line moves this week have been a little bit head-scratching. What about this morning? What have you seen come rolling in? Anything of note?
Well, we've had sharp groups on both sides of this Carolina Raider game. You know, nothing warms the heart of a better like watching the Panthers play football, preferably against the Raiders. That's one for the diehards for sure. So we've seen people on both sides of that. We've seen people laying the Colts -1. I think those are the two main ones that we've seen this morning where we've seen really a clear distinction. We've also seen a little bit of Atlanta trickling in, Atlanta +3. You know, we talked about that a little bit off camera, just that our need will change throughout the course of the day because the wise guys bet early, right? And the public will bet later. They probably haven't thought about that game yet. But once they catch some 10 a.m. or 1 o'clock tickets, they'll come to the window, and I think we all know what team they'll be looking at night. So that's kind of how things are evolving right now. But it's early, you know. Things change a lot over the course of the next hour, and then especially with the later kickoffs, you can really, you know, whatever I tell you guys right now, it can really change.
I think we got 7 1 o'clock games here today, 5 in the afternoon slate, 4 o'clock.
Which is great.
Which is kind of crazy, right?
It's so much better. Last week was terrible, like 10-3, and then like 2 of those games were total duds. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I love the fact that they mixed it up here a little bit. 2 Monday night games, of course. A lot of the movement we're going to see on those later games, to your point, is going to be dictated a lot by how people do in these 7 1 o'clock starts here and what we have. Sure. And of course, we did learn a little bit of people wondering what was going on with Justin Herbert. This Pittsburgh game coming up here. Herbert's listed. Fields is going here. The total keeps coming down. We're still seeing 36, 35 and a half. Are you looking just about balanced in that game? Is anybody running to the window to back one side or the other now that we know Herbert's in?
Well, we've seen so much on the total back and forth because people weren't sure about Herbert, and a lot of the wise guys bet this stuff kind of thinking, okay, well, we'll bet it, it'll move, and then we can always get off if Herbert plays. So, you know, we had lots of action on whatever it was, Thursday, where they just kind of announced out of the blue that he was hurt. So, you know, the thing shot down to like 34.5. Now it's back up. It got back as high as 36. Now it's 35.5. So that's just, you know, a lot of that is just people consolidating their positions on that kind of stuff. So, you know, we were talking earlier and I said that our perfect scenario would be the Chargers the Chargers cover and don't win, which is obviously a tight threshold there. And at 2.5 with some juice on the Steelers side right now. You know, that's a game where it's so much information based. I mean, the NFL is so much like that now. Like whoever gets the information first is going to have the edge on this stuff. So right now, because Herbert ended up playing, you know, a lot of those Charger bets from earlier in the week, people got off them for the most part. So, you know, I mean, because obviously we were as high as 3, and now we're down, you know, back to 2.5. So
we heard the same thing about Green Bay too, right? We heard Jordan Love was practicing this week. There were some thoughts that he was going to be in there. I know a lot of people are running to the window to bet the total up in thinking he would be under center, but I think once they ruled him doubtful last night, Are you starting to see money come back in the other way? Are we starting to see the Tennessee love showing up?
Yeah, we definitely need Green Bay, at least right now. Right now we're at 3 with some Green Bay juice there. I know there's some other shops that some heavy 2.5 on the other side. Yes, I don't know if that was considered, at least in our room, as likely. I think the Herbert thing was definitely questionable just because you never know the high ankle sprain, what's going to happen. I don't think people thought that Love was going to play. Would have been pretty surprised based on everything that we were reading this week. I don't, when we were making props and stuff like that, I don't think we were considering that as a real distinct possibility. So, yes, we had some people betting it up, kind of hoping. That's the you bet it up, and then if it's not there, you get off, and that's kind of what people have been doing. But I don't think we had enough Green Bay money to offset all of the. Right now, it's all Tennessee money, so we definitely were rooting for Green Bay. Yeah, rooting for Malik Willis in the revenge game that he says is not a revenge game.
Love that. Yeah. Well, it's, you got to actually be able to, kind of win a game and throw the ball if it's going to be a true revenge game. Chase, let me ask you, Kelly, of course, is in Tampa for a game against her. The Broncos are coming to her neck of the woods there. So she's at that game right now. And are you shocked here? Because I'm seeing Denver money come rolling in here. Have you seen a steady flow of that, or are you expecting maybe a little bit more Tampa Bay money to come in at some point?
We'll get more Tampa money. We got a little Denver money. I thought it was funny that we got Denver money as soon as they announced that they're planning to run the ball more. And like de-emphasize Bo Nix. So I enjoyed that. They'll bet anything. The information, any information, will get people to bet one way or the other. So we have a little Bronco money. We don't have a big decision on that yet. But I'm sure that'll evolve over the course of the next hour. But right now, I would say, in a perfect world, we just say Denver wins to knock out any parlays right now. But again, that could change.
How about not a big decision right now? How about the teaser market this week? There were a few games. A lot of guys I know were running to the window early with some key numbers. Most still seem to be in range here. I know we're stars 1.5s and 2s still available in the marketplace here. Have you seen maybe a bigger influx in any sort of teaser opportunities this week coming in?
Yeah, it's what we were talking about earlier a little bit. Some Charger, some whichever side you enjoy, of that Bears Colts game, depending upon when you got it. The Vikings for those who are hard. That's a game that's it's 2-0 teams, right? I mean, I don't think people expected that. We don't really have a huge decision on the straight bets on that yet, but we could use Minnesota for the parlays, but I'm sure that would also up the teasers. So we'll see how that kind of evolves. I don't know if people are really looking at it that way with Dallas as much. That's again, that's something that we'll see probably later because of late kickoff. You'll see the teasers more on that, especially with more late kickoffs today. People will bet maybe just 10 a.m. games, and then they'll wait, and then they'll come back, cash some tickets, and just bet everything for the late games. That's generally what we see when there's a larger 1 o'clock, 1:25 slate.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Because again, 5 games here at 4 o'clock or later. 7 is getting ready at the 1 o'clock time frame. And the question we always want to know here, Chase, at this point, because we were on last week, plumbing problems aside here, but you talked about a couple of those games you needed. You needed the Raiders outright. The books needed the Raiders. You needed everything you needed last week came through, and the public is scratching their head going, what in the hell was that? So who are some of the teams that you guys need today? No kidding, it was great.
Well, it's funny because right now we need the Seahawks, which is a favorite. And that's a combination of just sharp money on the Dolphins. And then also, I don't know how comfortable the public is laying points with the Seahawks. We'll see. It's obviously Skylar Thompson, which is a little different than if the Dolphins had full go with their offense. But right now, we need the Seahawks. Again, that could evolve. In the late window, we'll need the Cardinals. We'll likely be rooting for the Rams as well. Because in a game where everyone is hurt, I guess people will just kind of lean towards the 49ers because they obviously have the track record. So I think those are some of our needs right now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that stands out. The Packers. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. The Packers.
Yeah.
Like to see the Packers win that game, for sure.
Yep, Packers are going to be a big need here. But again, it's so interesting the way the schedule here is today, Chase. So what you need right now may very well change quickly as we get a little bit closer to that 3:30, 4 o'clock time frame here. Just out of curiosity, what are you starting to see? What Kansas City here on the Sunday night game? Obviously, that the amount of money and bets that are going to come in on that a little bit later are going to be off the top here. But the hook was available for most of the week here. Then we started to see threes popping up. Where are you with Kansas City here tonight and Atlanta?
Yeah, so like the wise guys bet earlier. So we saw people snapping up the better numbers with Atlanta. So now we're down to 3. So right now, if the game kicked off in 2 minutes, we would say we need Kansas City. But that will change, right? Because any large straight bets on that game from the public will probably come in closer to game time. You also can't see with the software exactly where the parlay liability is until the other sides win, right? So like we'll know by the time that game kicks off for how much we need Atlanta for, but we'd be pretty surprised if we didn't need Atlanta, just because everything's going to be tied to Kansas City that's still alive. And of course, I'm sure we'll have some big public play on Kansas City kind of at the buzzer. That's what we expect. That's what we get every week with Kansas City. Like last week, they didn't cover, but they won, which was actually ideal. We could have used Cincinnati to win the game. But just covering was enough for another good result. So that's, there are certain teams, right? Like obviously New England in their heyday, we're basically rooting against them every week. And that's where we're at with Kansas City, especially in a night game, especially with a team that the public doesn't really like. Atlanta won that game against Philly on Monday, but the public doesn't trust Atlanta yet. If they win this game, then maybe that'll change. But right now, we'll definitely need Atlanta.
There we go. Chase Michaelson, man, over at the Westgate from the Risk Room. Brother, we appreciate the time. As always here, you are about, I am sure, to get flooded with a whole lot of bets, a whole lot of work coming in, man. But enjoy your Sunday as best you can, brother. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Any floods that are bets only and nothing else is good.
Is good. Let's keep it rolling. That's it, man. Chase Michaelson over at the Westgate. We appreciate you guys. Appreciate you logging in here today, hanging with us live here on WagerTalk's Last Call. Joe Raineri in for Kelly in Vegas. Kelly and Stewart, who is at the Tampa Bay Bucks and Denver game here today. Make sure you guys are checking her out on her X page there. She'll be streaming live and posting a whole lot of stuff with our good friend Jeff Petch. But here we've got nothing but gold to talk about because our man Gianni the Greek ready to roll, no doubts. Has been a little bit big. You're working harder than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, Gianni. What is going on here, brother? What do you got today?
Indeed. I just jumped over from the steam room. In fact, I'm going to share as much as I can actionable info. Let me give you some team totals that we fired on because these have done really good. 2 game team totals. We went over 16.5 in the Chargers, over 16.5 team total for the Chargers, and under 23.5 team total for the Eagles. Under 23.5 team total for the Eagles. First half team totals really quick. Saints under 13 first half team total. Tampa under 13 first half team total. Green Bay under 10 first half team total. Tennessee under 10 first half team total. And Seattle under 13 first half team total. those are some of those team totals that we've done very well with. Real quickly, I'll go over some of these sides that are sharp. There's a lot of two-way action. Tells you how tight these NFL lines have been. Two-way action on the Chargers Steelers, but the over did get some steam when it dropped down to 34.5, 35. Bears Colts, same thing. Two-way sharp action there. Texans Vikings, two-way sharp action there. Browns getting steam, but at 7, you're getting some take back on the Giants. Eagles, Saints, same thing. The under is what is sharp. They're taking the 3 on the Eagles. They're laying the 2.5 on the Saints. That's pretty much what's been happening since this line opened on Monday night, and the line kept climbing up throughout Monday Night Football as the Eagles lost the way they lost. Broncos plus the 7 over Tampa Bay, and also over getting some steam there. Don't forget that Chargers-Steeler over, that is the lowest total of the NFL season, and it's starting to trickle up a little bit. Drop down to the Panthers-Raiders, no surprise. Panthers getting money. They've looked as horrific as you can. Continue to get downgraded on most power ratings, but still think they're being a little bit undervalued this early on in the season. Dolphins and Seattle, steam on the Dolphins. That was an overreaction based on the look ahead and the injury. Over Lions, Cardinals, Public, and the Wise Guys both on the over. Wise Guys did take the Ravens over the Cowboys. Looks like the Public's coming in on the Ravens as well. So the books are definitely going to be Cowboys backers come this afternoon. Sharp money on the 49ers after early money on the Rams. And that's pretty much it. Again, a lot of two-way action in the NFL shows you just how tight these lines are. When they start moving in one direction, they'll come back the other way. So, yeah, a lot already in week 3, Joe.
I got to ask you, we ask every week, here we are week 3. There were a lot of teaser numbers available.
Yes,
what
sir.
have you seen action-wise thus far in the teaser market through the first? I mean, here we are in week 3. Are you starting to see more volume in the teaser market with these numbers?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. Last week, there were 5 teams you could have teased with the Wong. They went 3-2. So there were 22 team combinations when you have 5 teams. 10 of them won, 10 of them lost. So you lost a little vig, even though they went 3-2. That's the key to Wong teasers. You got to play them all because you know what your edge is. Whether you're laying, if you're laying 110, you got about a 4 to 5% edge. If you're laying 120, you got about a 2.5% edge. That edge will materialize, but you got to bet them all. There's 4 teams on Sunday that fall under the Wong teaser. It's Chargers at plus 2.5. It's Bears at plus 1.5. It's the Vikings as plus 1.5 or 2.5, and it's the Eagles at plus 2.5. So that's 4 teams that we're simply teasing because of the number. No one cares who's going to win or lose. We're simply taking advantage of going through 3, 4, 6, and 7. And that is what gives us the advantage. So when there's 4 teams you could tease, that means there's 6 teaser combinations. So you could play 6 teasers with those 4 teams. That's how I do it. And like I said, if you do it week by week by week, when the dust settles, you will be profitable because the edge is there as long as you're not laying more than 120 juice on a 6-point teaser.
Are you seeing any? Is there any one particular game that you've seen people just bypass and stay away, wanted nothing to do with it? It felt like the Rams and the 49ers. I'm kind of shocked you said you started to see some 49ers steam come in because, I mean, with all the injuries, I'm shocked anybody's even looking at that game.
Yeah, and believe it or not, it's that is one of the lower bet games, but so far it's that Miami-Seattle that isn't attracting any money at all. I've looked at back ends of books that have like most recreational bettors, and that's the least bet game. From sharp bettors, there's not much of an opinion on that one when it comes to the Miami Dolphins and the Seahawks. And I think it's the look ahead. I mean, you got to remember, it's an overreaction. The look ahead was 1.5, and now we're looking at what? It got up to 6.5 before it started getting bet down.
Yep.
So I think that's the reason you saw that early steam on the Dolphins. But now that it's sitting at 4.5, Joe, it's pretty much no one's doing anything with it. They're not teasing it. They're not betting it. The over-under's not getting bet. I'm a little bit surprised because I thought you'd see sharp money on the Dolphins and over. You did get Dolphins money early at 6.5 and 6, but since then, it's been nothing at all and not much on the total either.
Interesting here. And these, I know some of the guys in the chat room. What is the protocol if you're seeing money early in the week on one group coming back the other way with another group on a week? How do you decipher what to do with those games where you're seeing two-way action like that, Gianni?
Usually what I do is I just pass unless I believe that it was manipulation. When it's manipulation, what happens usually, Joe, it's the same group betting it, meaning the same guy I work with, he'll call in and he'll say, get me team A off screen or on screen. Usually it's on screen early in the week. They want the screen to see it because the limits are low. Dude, I could bet $500 into an account, Joe, and it'll move the line of the board about a half a point to a point. Just because that line, that account's labeled as being a winning account has nothing to do with me. They don't even know whose it is. They just know that that account is a bot. It's a winning account. So when we bet into it, we're going to move it a half a point to a point. They do it every time like clockwork, and then everyone else follows it. So for a couple limit bets, I could move the board a point and a half, 2 points for these guys. Then later in the week, that same group will come back and bet 5x, 10x, 20x on the real side they wanted. And let's not forget, that bet earlier in the week isn't a bad bet anyway, because we got down at a good number. So when you have the power to manipulate the market, you're doing it. That's what we as recreational bettors wanting to be sharp need to realize, that if we had that same power to move the screen, that's exactly what we'd be doing. So be cautious drawing conclusions, especially now that it's so mainstream and so corporate. You know, you can't bet on screen anymore. They're just going to kick you out if you win.
Are you noticing it too, Gianni? Because we've talked about it over the last couple of weeks. It seems we're getting a lot later bets moving markets closer and closer to kickoff. Have you noticed that as well? Where we're getting a lot of this steam. Of course, you get the early week numbers, but it seems like they're waiting longer and longer to be able to get that action in.
Dude, you're paying attention more than most people, bro. That's what I can tell you, because that's exactly what's happening, Joe. That's exactly what's happening. In fact, one of the most profitable betting syndicates I know in MMA and one of the most profitable betting syndicates I know in college football have been forced to place the majority of their bets an hour to 30 minutes before the fight or the game starts, because that's the only time they could get a lot of money down. So they are willing to bypass getting the best number to get more money down. So they'll take a half a point worse, 10 cents worse, 20 cents worse, so they could get down 6 figures rather than 5 figures at a better number. That's what's happening. That's why you're seeing such big moves late. Some of the biggest moves come leading right up to kickoff. And most people have missed them because they placed their bets. They're already finished. They're walking back to their seats. They're getting ready to watch the games. But that's when all of it's happening. That's what these betting syndicates are waiting for. That 15 minutes, 20 minutes before the game where their money gets mixed in with all the other money, and you could get down so much more. I've seen it over and over and over in MMA, and it's now crossed over to major sports as well. They'll say, hey, we'll get a half a point worse, but we'll get 6 figures down instead of 10 dimes down. And that's why they wait until game day. Great observation, bro. Great observation.
Yeah, I'm watching it every week, watching the board light up 30 minutes before kickoff, and I'm going, what in the world is going on here? But that's interesting. Get a little worse of a number, but more money down makes all the sense in the world, which is also why it's pretty important, Gianni, to partner up with yourself, because the bets are coming in right up. So your clients, right, over at WagerTalk, they're going to get the information as soon as you get the information.
Actionable, dude, up to the second. Like the stuff I was giving them now in the steam room, these guys were putting on letting me know on the chat, like, dude, I got a half point better. I got a point better, because I'm able to speak it as it's coming on my thing. So as the group's saying, get me -3.5, I'm saying on the mic, we're getting -3.5. So they're able to see that after they bet it, the screen will line up minutes after they bet it. So they're seeing this happen as we're doing it. And again, I'm having a losing year. I'll tell you when I win and I tell you when I would lose. I've won 8 of the last 9 years, but 2024 has not been going in my favor. Now I have a couple months left before all the dust is settled and we see how it finishes. But the information continues to come in. And like I said, we're crushing these closing numbers. And when you're doing that long-term, you're going to do okay.
That's what I'm talking about. It's a matter of being consistent and consistently on top of it, and partner with Gianni over at WagerTalk.com. Best way to go, because it's interesting too here, Gianni. You see that 7 1 o'clock games. We got 5 4 o'clock or later games, which means the day is not even close to being to getting started, because what happens in those first 7, I would imagine you're going to be pretty busy come 3:30, 4 o'clock today.
Oh, yeah. And then we have 2 Monday nighters tomorrow after the Sunday night game. Because you got to remember, depending on how the outcomes of these early games, that's going to determine a lot of the risk in the later games. Did the early teasers cash? Did the early money line parlays cash? That adds a lot more risk to the later afternoon games, forces the books to adjust their lines to try to limit some of that risk. So they're willing to give a guy like me the best of it so I could come in and limit some of their risk. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm waiting a half hour, an hour before those later games go to see, are any of these lines being moved so that they could limit some of their risk where we could sneak in and get the best of it. It happens on Sunday night, it happens on Monday night, and it happens on these later games because of the risk tied in from earlier that they have to try to mitigate later in the day or even on Monday Night Football. A lot of times you could take advantage of that.
Yeah, and you can do it also by visiting Gianni over at WagerTalk.com. Partner up with him because, as you can tell, he's got his finger on the pulse of what the hell's going on here. Gianni, I appreciate the time as always, brother. Get out of here, man.
Thank you.
Busy day ahead. Good luck. Gianni the Greek, make sure you visit him over at WagerTalk.com and partner up with him as the steam room is full board ahead, man. Continuing to roll. You guys can get all of that information on his page at WagerTalk.com. We agree with you, Anthony. Love listening to Gianni. We also love listening to the next guy who's going to answer any questions on these games that you guys have, backed by popular demand. He was in this chair a week ago, spitting out winners and giving out facts here in the NFL slate week 2. He's back by popular demand for week 3. It's the Prez. There he is. Look at it. Look at them arms, man. Look at that. Damn. That's what I'm talking about, Prez. What's happening? Oh, no. Oh, this is where am I supposed to mime? Is that how? You're good to go. Oh, no, you're right back to the mute again. You're right back to the mute. Let me see if I can do the voiceover. Hi, my name's Mr. Oh, no, that's not. No, I don't look like I did. One more time, Prez. Let's see if we got you now.
There we go. This is the second time that has happened. The first time was with Kelly, and I don't mute myself, man. I mean, I like my voice too much. I have no mute button in my life.
We know that.
Pleasure to be with you, you sun-kissed stud muffin. What's going on?
Talk to me. What do you got? We got 7 1 o'clock games coming up. How many are you invested in, and what are the games you're looking at here today?
Okay, well, I'm invested in the Chargers and the Pittsburgh game. I'm invested in the Chicago-Indianapolis game. I'm invested in the New Orleans game. That's really all of where my actual bets go. I mean, look, I do make some money line parlays along the way. I do play a bunch of the Wong teasers. But as far as, what will be on the main television in the house today, and I will have 3 TVs going, I think the Chargers-Pittsburgh will probably be the number 1 television set. The smaller TV will be Chicago-Indianapolis, and then the computer screen will be the New Orleans Saints-Philadelphia game. So that's where I'm at. But obviously, I've handicapped every single game on the board. And yeah, man, I like week 3. Week 2 and 1 are sort of my struggle weeks, but I really feel like I'm going to have an outstanding day today. I'm excited for today.
I am too here because some of these matchups, Prez, are getting real interesting. Kelly, in fact, is in Tampa. She's going to be watching her Denver Broncos take on the Bucks. It kind of felt like an over game given the injuries on the defense on both sides, both teams dealing with big defensive injuries. So if Bo Nix and company were ever to get it going here a little bit offensively, it feels like this might be the game to do it. And we know Tampa can score here, but when you looked at this game, what were you thinking? You're not running to the window to lay 6.5, are you?
Listen, Joe, there's now 5.5s on the board, and I know some people bet Denver up at 7. There This is one of those games where it's like, don't try to overthink it. I'm not going to be betting this game, but if I were to bet this game, I would take Tampa Bay team total over, Denver Broncos team total under. I'm not going to sit here and say if Bo Nix can figure it out. Why? After Bo Nix figures it out, then I will say, hey, Bo Nix figured it out.
Sure.
I don't have a crystal ball. And I look at this Denver Bronco offense and I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand Sean Payton's play calling. Has the NFL passed him by? I don't get what Denver is doing. This is a team that should be running the ball 2 out of 3 plays. This is a team that should have stacked their O-line. And this is a team that to me is just one big freaking mess. As for Tampa Bay, tough spot for them, Joe. Coming off of a revenge win against Detroit last week and an outstanding win. They've played, and this is a similar situation that Kansas City finds themselves in. This is a Tampa Bay team that played a division game, then they played a revenge playoff loss, and now they play nobody from across the conference. So I wouldn't bet Tampa, and I wouldn't bet Denver. I don't like the over because Tampa Bay is going to play to the over and Denver's going to play to the under. I don't like the under because Denver's going to play to the under all year. So if I had to bet it, I would play right into their identities, which is Tampa over, Denver under.
What did you do, if anything, Prez, when you looked at the Green Bay Tennessee game? Tennessee, a team that it should have at least one win, if not 2. And a lot of people feel that. Jordan Love out, so Malik Willis in. The Packers, we know they're not going to throw the ball, and yet Indy couldn't stop them last week, knowing the run was coming. What do we think happens here? Tennessee's defense is much, much better than Indy's was. Do you think this has got Tennessee written all over it, or an under? What were you thinking?
So, Joe, and this trend sort of works across all sports. Your superstar or your quarterback or the most important player in your team, your goaltender in hockey, whatever it may be, Connor McDavid, if they go out, they're injured, first game without them, that team is a bet on team. And we saw that with Green Bay week. No Jordan Love. They came out. They changed their game plan. They ran the ball down Indianapolis' throat. I liked Green Bay last week, and they covered. Conversely, they're a bet against team in week 2 or game 2 if you're looking at other sports. This Green Bay Packers team is in a bad spot right now, and Tennessee has got to be hurting. And we're not going to sit here. And I've listened to all the pundits, and Kelly and Murray were talking about it on their show. Will Levis this, Will Levis that. Guys, people have brain cramps. This happens. I mean, we could easily go back and find 2 bad games that Tom Brady had in a row, or Joe Montana, or et cetera, et cetera. Not comparing Will Levis to any of those guys, but we got to look past the Will Levis brain cramps. This Tennessee team could easily be 2-0, and I think they get their act together in this game. If you can get minus 150, Joe, I would prefer you bet this on the money line than at a -3. And just to mention, that -3 is an interesting number because against the money line, it's like, where do you stop? So Detroit, for instance, is playing Arizona. You can get -3 for Detroit, or you can get minus 150. Minus 150 is a better bet mathematically than -3. However, minus 165 is not. So if you're going to get minus 150 or minus 155, I prefer the money line. Anything at minus 160 or up, I prefer the spread. I like Tennessee here.
Liking Tennessee to get it done. I'm starting to see there are some questions, Prez. I don't know if you mentioned Dallas, Baltimore. In this game coming up, 2 teams that, Baltimore can't start 0-3 here. I don't know how much stock you put into teams knowing desperate week 3. I hate to say must win in week 3, Prez, but the numbers don't lie. You lose, you start 0-3, the chance of your postseason is kind of that this is it. So this seems like a really tough spot for Baltimore here. Or is it a shootout? I don't know. Which way would you lean in this one?
Well, yes. Firstly, I lean on it being a total shootout, especially on that fast track in Dallas. But Joe, let's be careful here with this must-win nonsense. If Baltimore finds themselves in must-win mode on week 3, clearly week 1 and 2 didn't work out well for them. And maybe early on in the season, maybe we have overrated this Baltimore team to begin with. Let's take a look at their defense. This defense is not playing well. Their secondary is not great. They lost some crucial players from last year's defense. They're not really pressuring the quarterback that well. And when you look at the offense, one thing we know about Lamar Jackson is when he is on, he is absolutely freaking lights out. He never sends a memo to any of us letting us know when he's going to be on. He is an inconsistent player, and even in a must-win scenario, that doesn't mean he's all of a sudden going to be consistently great. I look at this Dallas team, and I'm like, okay, guys, you're 16-1 in your last 17 games at home in the regular season. 16-1. You're coming off an absolutely humiliating loss at home where both your defense played bad and your offense played bad. I think Dallas wins this game outright here, Joe. I don't understand why everybody is so high on the Baltimore Ravens as opposed to the Dallas Cowboys. If Dallas won last week against New Orleans and the line was Baltimore -1, I would lean more towards Baltimore. But you got one of the best home field teams in the league coming off of a humiliating disaster loss. And I look at this game and I say to myself, who's got the better D? Maybe Baltimore if you're looking from last year. But hey, Dallas was a top 5 D unit last year. They played awesome against Cleveland, and they just lost their way quickly against New Orleans. If you look at the offense, I don't think they really compare. I look at this Dallas offense, and I think when all said and done, they're going to be the best offensive unit in all of football. I just don't understand why Dallas, with a 16-1 record at home in their last 17 regular season games, find themselves as a dog. I'm going to take advantage of that. I actually prefer Dallas than Baltimore. But with that said, Joe, I think this game is going to be the highest scoring game of the day. I think we're going to get into the 60s.
So, yeah, well, two things here with Baltimore. Number one, they have no pass rush, guys. Zero. They can't get to any quarterback, which means Dak Prescott and Dallas can't run the ball anyway. So that means I do think Dak and CeeDee Lamb, they are poised to have big, big days. Keep this in mind, by the way. The Ravens pass rush this year ranked 27th in the NFL. You know where their Seahawks pass rush is? They're second. You know who coaches the Seahawks? Yeah, the former defensive coordinator at the Baltimore Ravens a year ago. So I don't think that's by accident, Prez.
Yeah. No, and I'm with you, Joe. I think this Baltimore defense is overrated.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100% with you there. It's a different time. Yes, Prez, I think you said he is invested in the Colts-Bears side. Looking at the under in that, I saw that video this week, Prez. Well done, and you guys can check it out as well. Just check out the comments below. Prez, at your page right now here, before we get to kickoff here, T-minus 20 minutes or so, what do you got that folks can head over there and hop on board and partner with you on?
Joe, I got 7 bets for my clients today, and I do want to say that there could still be a late bet coming in. Man, I am waiting and waiting for this Detroit-Arizona total to go to 51. It doesn't seem like it will. At 51.5, I'm going to lay off this game. If this Detroit-Arizona game goes to 51, I will release it as a client play to the over. And people are like, it's a half a point. Like, why would you not be on it at 51.5 and be on it at 51? Man, 51 is a big number in totals. 20 or 24 gets you to 51, but it loses on 51.5. So I am hoping we see a little buyback on the under. in that Detroit game, so we can come in on the over, but it's unlikely, Joe. It looks like it's going up in the other direction. There are a couple of 52s on the board. So I have a 7-pack for my clients going, including 2 in the late group, 1 in the night game. And I'm excited about today. I actually think I'm going to have a breakout day today. So feel free to join me over at WagerTalk.com. It's a privilege to provide you guys with my picks.
Outstanding stuff. I would also highly encourage you guys, if you don't know or have not seen it, the daily presidential address weekly, in fact, gets released on Tuesdays. A lot of great information about the early lines, the early looks that Prez gives out there. Absolutely is one of those videos we have at Wager Talk that can help you guys make some early decisions about what you're looking at there. Some great stuff and some games coming up later. Again, 5 in the afternoon slate here. Not just, it's not all front loaded today. 7 1 o'clock starts, 5 4 o'clock starts, 2 Monday night games, Prez, and again, Monday night games, not a part of your card, I would imagine today, but may very well again tomorrow if you're gonna jump in.
Both tough games, Joe. I do have Cincinnati and a couple of Wong teasers, but man, those tomorrow night games are both tough games.
Yep.
Real quick, Joe, I just did see some questions on the board. I'll answer both of them in 2 seconds.
Shoot.
Chicago and Indianapolis, you guys know I like the under. As for the side, I would prefer Indianapolis. A real quick math lesson to all of you guys. Anytime the line is -2, take it on the money line. You have a -1.5 for Indianapolis. I like them on the money line. And as for Houston and Minnesota, who the hell in their right mind would bet this game, Joe?
Well, it's like hello. There's a couple of games today I would try to run as far away from, including, let's face it here, are you running to lay a touchdown with the Browns, Prez?
I would prefer the Giants at 7. So, I sit here and I'm telling you flat out, guys, like you want to take a flyer, the Giants on the money line. And I'll handicap this in 1 second. The Dallas Cowboys bought the backfield of the Cleveland Browns last week, 2 weeks ago. They then rented it out to Jacksonville, who obviously didn't show up and ended up paying rent for a place that remained empty. And now they've rented it out to the New York Giants. And I think the New York Giants are going to live, eat, and sleep in Cleveland's backfield. I also don't think this Cleveland Browns defense is as good as everybody thinks. We do have injuries up and down the Cleveland defensive lineup. If Miles plays, if TJ plays, they're both injured. And Deshaun Watson is a garbage quarterback. I'm not -6.5 for the Browns. Who in their right mind would bet that?
Yeah. Not me. I wouldn't go anywhere near it here. But like Prez said, 7 games he does like and invested in here. At least 7 bets within those games are coming your way by visiting them over at wt.buzz/LP. That is the way you go get it. Prez, another outstanding job here, my friend. Week 3 of the NFL is upon us here. T-minus about 17, 18 minutes before the opening kick. Enjoy your day, Prez. We appreciate the time as always. And judging by the comments and what we're seeing here, you'll probably be back again next week. So always
Joe,
a pleasure, my man.
Joe, I'm good to go. John Finley, any sandwich advice? John, I'm having a Montreal bagel today,
Yes.
2 of them with cream cheese, tomato, cucumber, red onion, a little bit of salt and pepper. The bagels will be toasted. Much appreciate that question. You know how much I love food. I'm also spending the entire second group of games from 4:15 onwards on the Peloton. I'm going to try to ride close to 75 kilometers today, Joe. So I'm going to give it about a 3-hour ride today.
Wow. That sounds a lot like work. Prez, get out of here. Outstanding stuff here, my man. Always a pleasure. Want to thank Gianni the Greek, Chase Michaelson over at the Westgate, but most importantly, John Findlay, you and I are going to have a talk about asking the Prez that sandwich question, my friend. You know better than that here. But all the best here, guys. We appreciate the time as always. Make sure you give us that thumbs up if you can. Every Saturday and Sunday, last call, Saturday college football, Sunday NFL. Hit that little bell in the upper right-hand corner on YouTube. Get notified when we go live. Never miss a very important edition of Last Call. But on behalf of those guys, we appreciate the time as always. Best of luck with the plays here. We'll see you again next week for Last Call. Until then, cash those tickets.